Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to AJ's Daily Cricket, and welcome to the first in a different type of video here on the channel. As I've mentioned previously, I want to do a range of video features covering all different types of aspects of the game, and today we're going to look at our first shot comparison video. And as it's the first, in the spirit of starting with a bang, we'll look at the shot that really is the favourite of every cricket coach, every journalist, every purist, every real lover of the game. It's the shot that is aesthetically probably the most pleasing, and one that takes arguably the most technical skill to complete to the fullest, and that of course is the cover drive. Now, the cover drive is certainly my favourite shot. I think whether I'm watching cricket, as I mentioned, there's nothing more aesthetic, or if I'm playing a game, again, I don't think there's anything quite like the feeling when you manage to get one, find the gap in the covers, get one through and watch it race away to the boundary. I really do think there's no better feeling in cricket. So certainly my favourite shot. And for the purposes of this video, we're going to look at my 10 most favourite examples that have ever been caught on camera. Now, I'm not saying that these are the 10 best players of the cover drive of all time, although certainly some of them are. I'm just saying that these are my favourite examples of the shot, and certainly footage that I refer to when I'm coaching youngsters and trying to help people improve their game. There's a number of great tips and great bits of advice that can be garnered just by watching these magnificent examples of the shot. So with that in mind, I want to jump straight into the first example here, and it's by a player that I think has always been one of the most attractive players to watch. Test average of 40 plus as well, with 20 hundreds in there, so a serious record, but a player that is just so beautiful on the eye, and that is Ian Bell. Now, Ian is certainly one of, if not the most attractive batsman that England have ever produced, in my opinion, and as we can see here, an absolute master of the cover drive. I think what makes him such a good exponent of this shot is he has a wonderfully compact technique which allows his head position to always be under control, and that itself gives him incredible balance. And that's what, in my opinion, especially in this example of the shot, allows him to have an almost mechanical elegance to the way he plays this cover drive. There's a real and very noticeable acceleration of the bat face through that hitting zone, which gives him the ability to generate great timing on the shot. And as I say, the weight transfer that head position and always being under control with the head position allows him to transfer the weight, elegantly deliver that bat face as square as possible, and really play the shot in a very risk-free way. It really is a phenomenal example, and any young player out there, any player wanting to improve their cricket, my message would be, look how compact his technique is, look how under control the head position is, and look how successful that weight transfer is through the ball. If you can master those things, or begin to master those things, then you're going to really feel the benefit when playing the cover drive, because as I say, that shot all about balance, all about being able to take the risk out of it as much as possible and make sure that the timing is as perfect as possible. And in my opinion, really no better example of it than Ian Bell here. As I say, a mechanical grace, a mechanical elegance, and really one of a kind. Right, so the next cover drive I want to take a look at for today's video features the main man himself, Mr. Virat Kohli. And as we can see here, Virat, obviously a wonderful player of the cover drive, but as we can see here, in comparison with the Ian Bell shot just a moment ago, Virat is a lot more aggressive with his cover drive. The weight transfer, the stride, everything is happening a lot earlier and with a lot more intent to get out and get at the ball. A lot more aggressive, and probably a great example of the difference in personalities as well between the two batsmen. Virat always looking to put the pressure back on the bowler, be the enforcer in India's middle order, and really start to take control and start to dominate the innings, and that is completely summed up by this shot here. The weight transfer, as I mentioned, happens early and is a lot more pronounced than we saw in Ian Bell's shot. That allows his hands to stay ahead of his body and really punch through the ball whilst keeping it down. And as you can see, he watches the ball so closely. So again, a great tip out there for any young player or aspiring cricketer. People often forget to watch the ball onto the bat face, but as we can see here from Virat, no such issues for him. He just watches that ball straight onto the willow. And as I say, that aggressive weight transfer whilst keeping his head position and his hands under control. That's what allows Virat to punch this through the covers with such power and to show such intent. So again, another wonderful example of the cover drive for a very different reason, but certainly one I use as a reference point when I'm trying to improve my game or help somebody else improve theirs. Now, the third shot I want to take a look at today comes courtesy of a true legend of the game, Mr. Brian Charles Lara. And as we can see here, Brian Lara plays this shot in a ridiculous way. He almost plays it off the back foot somehow. It is so different from the examples we've seen from Kohli and from Bell, much more traditionally correct in terms of technique. But here, Brian Lara just showing us a massive amount of talent and a huge amount of Caribbean flair. His weight stays in the crease, and he waits for that ball to get right under his eyes before he can unfurl those hands and lash it through the covers. But it truly is a remarkable shot to be able to have the talent to do this and keep the ball down at the same time. I certainly wouldn't advise anybody going out there trying to bat like Brian Lara. He really is a true one in a million, and you've got to follow the nuances of your own technique. But there's certainly things we can learn here. How closely he watches the ball, again, like the Virat Kohli example. He's waiting for that ball to be right under his eyes, and then that's when he goes through the hitting zone with his hands. Also, if you watch that maroon helmet, despite all of the movement in Brian Lara's technique, we can see that head position remains rock solid right the way through the ball's journey towards him and through the process of him striking it away through the covers, using that high backlift to generate the power. It truly is a remarkable example of a cover drive, but as I say, definitely things there that the aspiring cricketer can take away in terms of watch that ball and keep that head as still as possible, and you'll be able to play a whole range of shots a lot better. Now, moving on to the fourth shot that I want to take a look at today, we're going to look at a cover drive from another of the game's legendary left-handers, in this instance, Sri Lanka's Kumar Sangakkara. And just as in the previous example, Brian Lara was showing off all of his talent and all of his Caribbean flair, I think in this shot, Kumar Sangakkara is showing off the unique talents of a batsman who's grown up playing in Sri Lanka and in the subcontinent. As we can see, as he unfurls this shot, his hands are actually well out in front of his body, not something you would necessarily coach to a young player, but because of his ability, because of his talents, Kumar Sangakkara has the ability to punch those hands through the ball, manipulate it using his wrists to make sure that he finds the gap. It truly is a wonderful example of a subcontinental batsman at the top of his game. Again, he watches the ball very closely. Again, there isn't a great deal of head movement while the ball is travelling down towards him. But as you can see, those hands are out in front of the body, and he's trusting in his coordination, trusting in his wrist to be able to keep the ball down and find the gap and make sure he can time it as well as he does, as it barely seems that he touches the ball here, yet it races away across the outfield. So again, for me, this is a truly great example of a batsman exhibiting the qualities of where he's grown up in the world and where he's played his cricket, but playing a wonderful cricket shot, getting full value for it, not trying to overhit it, staying really within himself, just trusting his hands, trusting his timing. And as we can see, it truly is a beautiful shot on the eye as well. So Kumar Sangakkara, one of my favourite players, showing the world exactly why that is here with a truly wonderful shot. Now, no list of best shots is complete without at least one entry from the little master, so we'll have a look at Sachin here. And again, this is I apologise about the quality of the footage, but this is certainly a shot that I looked for and searched high and low for, because I remember this as a youngster growing up and watching this particular shot and just being in absolute awe of Sachin's ability. If you want an example of how to keep your hands high and stay on top of a cricket ball, this is exactly it. The ball has actually got a little bit big on him there, and he's committed to the shot, but the ability to stand up tall, keep those hands above the height of the bounce, punch that ball down into the ground, get with the timing he manages to achieve is nothing short of unbelievable, really. He we all know Sachin, we all know what he's achieved on a cricket field is pretty peerless, but for me, an absolutely wonderful example for any young batsman who wants to know the value of staying tall at the crease. Don't let your head fall over to the offside or fall away to the leg side when playing a shot. Keep the hands high, keep that front elbow high, punch the ball down into the ground, and you'll get the rewards. And Sachin here, as I say, the little master, the genius, the legend that he is, just showing everybody who has any interest in cricket as a lover of the game or a passing interest, he's just showing everyone exactly why he is the number one, in my opinion. So I want to move on from the veteran master to one of the players that really is at the height of the game today, and that's Pakistan's Babar Azam. This shot again against Australia, I apologise for that. There really is no intention. The Aussie bowlers just seem to be on the receiving end of some great cover drives. But as we can see from this shot, just absolutely beautiful. Very similar to Ian Bell at the start of the innings. It's just a compact technique that allows for great balance at the crease, a wonderfully still head position. And again, similar to Ian Bell, there really is that mechanical elegance almost to the shot that allows Babar to get the bat face through, accelerate it through that striking zone and time it away to the boundary. It really, really is a beautiful shot. And I just want to say here, for anyone looking for tips that they can apply to their own game, is really watch how Babar, after he's played the shot, he doesn't then take a secondary movement. And that for me is just a sign that his balance is absolutely perfect. And to get perfect balance, you need perfect head position, which he's showing here. As you can see, he just weight transfer into the ball, accelerate the bat through the hitting zone, and then stand and admire your shot whilst holding the pose. It really is a great example to young cricketers, anybody really looking to improve, of how head position equals balance and balance equals timing and proficiency, as we see him go through that striking zone with Ian Bell-esque mechanical elegance is the only phrase I can really use to describe it. But for me, what a shot. Very, very aesthetic, and again, something you can learn from, or something you can just put on repeat and enjoy watching time after time. Now, the next player I want to take a look at is Australia's Damien Martyn, a player that I actually think has been really underrated over the years. I really enjoyed watching him play, and as you can see here, he plays this shot in his own unique way. If we talk about Virat Kohli earlier, being the dominating force, big stride into the ball, being ultra aggressive, then Damien Martyn's almost taken the complete opposite route here. It's such a relaxed shot. It's almost just an extension, if you like, of a forward defensive, where he's just relying on his beautiful timing. And as you can see, that even though he is very relaxed and it is just an extended forward defensive, there is a lot of great stuff there. The weight transfer still going into the ball, the head position really good, really still, great balance. And in the end, you can only get 4 for the shot, can't you? So if you just have to lean on it, elegantly just guide it through the extra cover region for 4, I think it's absolutely wonderful shot, and certainly not too bad when you find yourself 2 for 2 as Australia did here. So again, Damien Martyn, a great player, just showing kids out there and anyone really involved in the game that you don't have to close your eyes and smash it. You really can just lean on it, just give it enough that you can time it away through the gap and you'll still pick up 4 runs. Fantastic shot. Now, for number 8 on the list, I want to take a look at a player that I remember watching a great deal of when I was a youngster growing up, and that is England's David Gower. Now, I think David is widely regarded really as one of the most attractive batsmen who's ever played the game, certainly that have come out of England. And I remember watching him and always being in awe really of how easy he made cricket look. He had this lazy sort of languid style that made it come across as if he was just having a knockabout in the park with his friends, even though he's playing against the best bowlers in the world and going about his business to the extent that he scored more than 8,000 test match runs. So just a wonderful cricketer. And as we can see from this shot, I just want to take a quick look at it. It's quintessential Gower really, a lazy languid stroke of the bat, beautiful balance through the ball, not trying to overhit it, just trying to glide it to the fence with all his usual panache. So a truly, truly wonderful shot from a great player, and I think this is something you can always put on if you want to show somebody a batsman with just a little touch of class, shall we say. Now, next up, I want to take a look at another cricketer who was an absolute favourite of mine as a kid growing up, and that is Australia's Ricky Ponting. Now, in this shot here, which is just a beautiful example of the cover drive, I think he's actually quite similar to the shot that Virat Kohli played and that we looked at earlier on in this video in terms of its aggressiveness. Ricky Ponting, like Virat, a very competitive, a very aggressive cricketer, and I think this shot encapsulates his personality. As you can see, there's a big stride into the ball, a big weight transfer. Ricky punches through that hitting zone with his hands high and a high front elbow, and it really is Ricky Ponting saying to the bowler that I'm here, I'm in form, and you're going to have to find different areas to bowl at me if you want to get me out or keep me under control. So just a beautiful example of the shot and a beautiful example of how the cover drive can be an intimidating thing for a bowler to see. Okay, you've not been smashed over your head into the stand, but to see the full face of Ricky Ponting's bat as he's coming down the pitch towards you and watching the ball fly through extra cover, that must have been a concern for any bowler. So again, love this shot. Think it's just a perfect example of everything that made Ricky Ponting one of the very best the game has ever seen. And so for the last entry on the list for today's video, I want to take a look at another of my personal favourites and arguably one of the finest cricketers of all time when you look at his stats across batting, bowling and fielding, and that's of course South Africa's Jacques Kallis. I think widely respected as a complete test match player and also a fine one-day international player, and as we can see here, has a mean cover drive in his locker as well. So I wanted to include this particular shot because it's against a spinner, and I wanted to make sure that we had at least one example of a great cover drive being played off a spinner, and B, also because this shot is played in a very un-Jacques Kallis way, if you like. Jacques is known as quite a methodical player, as a very correct player, but here we can see after he's picked the length and made his stride, he really opens his shoulders on this shot and gives it a bit of a slap through the covers actually, which very unlike Jacques Kallis, but when Kallis does get round to slapping one through the covers, we're never going to get tired of watching that, are we? So I think a really, really great shot for us to finish on, just showing that the cover drive is as effective against the spinners as the quick men, especially when you follow those key rules of still head position, making sure your balance is right, and getting those hands through it with as much commitment as possible. So a great shot from Jacques Kallis, and that will wrap us up today, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've garnered a few tips maybe from some of the stuff we've gone through, or just simply sat back and watched some great cricket shots by some of the world's greatest players. So subscribe, like, give us a comment, all that sort of stuff. Help us grow the channel, and we'll see you next time. But until then, take care and go well.